Hey everyone, and welcome to today's webinar titled Beyond Recovery, Optimize Channel Connectivity and Win Market Share. My name is Jason Freed and I'll be moderating today. Our Beyond Recovery series is sort of an ongoing series of content and webinar discussions that SHR and Hotel Recovery are working on together, really aimed at helping hotels, you folks, capture the most demand as travelers start getting back on the road, which we're all excited to see happen sooner here. Really quick logistic things before we get started. Audio's on mute for all the attendees. We do have a chat option, so feel free to ask questions during the presentation in the chat window. We'll take a few minutes at the end to answer as many of those questions as we can. Also, the session is being recorded. Tomorrow we'll send an email to all the registrants with a link to the video. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I'm really excited about this topic, and I want to thank all my panelists for taking some time out of their busy schedules to be with us today. So, you know, in my discussions with SHR in how we're going to present this topic, we've really been talking about the importance of moving that sort of welcoming experience from your actual lobby to your digital lobby. I don't know if we coined that term digital lobby or not, but we really feel that, you know, especially after the pandemic and what we've been going through over the past year, that it's really important to have your presence, to improve your presence and make sure that your presence online on all the various channels are optimized and speaking to the guests directly. So, you know, the way we run these is more of a discussion than a presentation. You won't see any slides. So we're going to keep it really casual here, and we'll just be really, I'll be asking questions to our panelists here to really try to get some takeaways for you, to our audience members, to really help them make a difference in your recovery efforts. So I'm going to get started by quickly introducing the panelists, and then I'll have each of them kind of go around the horn and tell you a little bit more about themselves. So let's start with Annemieke Dunlop. Annemieke is VP of Revenue Management at Aparium Hotel Group. We also have Amanda Milam. Amanda is Integrations Manager at SHR, Scepter Hospitality Resources. And last but not least with us, we have Mukund Mohan. Mukund is VP of Product Strategy at Infor. Annemieke, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Aperium, and sort of what your role at Aperium is.
Thanks, Jason. Good morning, everyone. As Jason said, I'm Annemieke. I'm VP of Revenue for Aperium. We are based out of Chicago, but majority of our hotels are Midwest-based and go as far south as Tampa, Florida. So currently we have 7 operating hotels, 2 that will be reopening here by April, and then we actually have 3 new opening hotels due to open by the end of May. So certainly a lot of moving parts at this time to get these 5 hotels up and running in the short period of the next 3 months, which is very exciting and a great opportunity for us to, even through these COVID times, to continue to grow and develop our company. Our company is really based on a boutique company where we really focus on doing hotels differently. So when it comes to, as Jason said, right, the creativity and online content, that is a key focus for us to really sell our brand online and to be able to draw new customers.
Hey, congrats on those new openings.
Thank you.
That's exciting times. Amanda, I'll move over to you if you wouldn't mind a little bit about SHR and your role at SHR.
Sure, thanks. Hello, everyone. So SHR really started out as a CRS provider with just distribution connectivity, but over the last year or 2, we've really grown into a multi-product company with a focus on generating revenue. So that's why we have our CRM and RMS products in place now, Wave and Maverick. My role as an integration manager is to really just oversee all of the efforts connecting with all of our PMS providers, our channel managers. And my biggest focus right now is really getting Wave and Maverick integrated in with those PMSs. So that's a little bit about it.
Yeah, we all know those integrations are such a critical part of getting the engine behind the hotels working. You know, I often say that's sort of a #1 concern for hoteliers, and it shouldn't be, right? It should, really our focus should be taking care of the guests, not making sure that our technology is working properly. But
exactly.
such a critical component to making sure we operate efficiently. Mukund, I'll turn it over to you. Would you mind a little bit about Infor and a little bit about your role there?
Sure. Thank you, Jason, and SHR for having us here. I'm very excited to be here amongst industry friends to talk about a very key topic on how we can, go beyond where we are today, and recovery is a big, topic for all of us. So, hello everyone. My name is Mukund Mohan. I handle product management at Infor for our hospitality management solution. HMS is our next-gen cloud-based property management system. Infor, as a company, is heavily vested in hospitality, enabling digital transformation for our customers. So very excited to be here with Aparium, one of our mutual customers. One of my pet topics is electronic distribution and online travel, because I've been involved in a lot of these deployments during my 25 years plus tenure in hospitality. And I'm very excited to be here. I'm actually based in Las Vegas, again, a huge destination market, and would love to share some thoughts on this topic today. Thank you, Jason.
Mukund, let me stick with you if you don't mind and ask you a little bit about how things have changed for your company and maybe your role, over the past year since the pandemic hit in what was it, February or March of 2020. How does your visibility look? How have you guys evolved?
Yeah, I mean, maybe kind of in a nutshell, right? What I can share is, we've been focused heavily on how technology can really help our mutual customers, handling the situation. The first thing that consumers did was, using their own devices for, interacting with hotels, right? So we immediately changed some of our priorities on our docket in last year when the pandemic, of course, came to the market. We started focusing on contactless technologies, because hoteliers, as well as their customers, both for employees and customers, had the safety first as part of their policy and procedure. So one of the big things we did was focus on the same things that I'm sure some of the other folks on this call will echo, safety first in terms of enabling more digital tools to allow hotels to make sure that they can provide the right service to their guests with more mobility solutions, both for employees as well as guests. And I can say for sure that living in Vegas, I wanted to see how the casinos are doing, and literally when you walk through any of the casinos, they put safety as the #1 priority, and they were looking for more and more these types of tools. So yeah, so at a high level, that's been our key focus, and we'll continue to expand on that because that's the trend.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me like we were somewhat moving in that direction before COVID, right? With the whole contactless and the, moving a lot of manual operations into a digital environment. And it really just accelerated that movement, I think.
Exactly. I mean, I attended the Consumer Electronics Show, which was all digital this year. They did actually, majority of the speakers there, with a lot of these large online retailers, payment companies, they all said, what was meant to happen, as the real trend just accelerated, like what was meant to happen in the next 7 years, like how we consume travel, how we consume education, how we consume seminars, it was all meant to happen. We'll be doing more and more things from home, products and services, or on your mobile device. So the next 7 years just got compressed in 1 year. So we've been really focused on that to enable digital transformation using more contactless technologies.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Mukund.
Yeah.
Amanda, I'll move over to you. I'm curious how your role at SHR on the integration side, has it changed at all since over the past year? I mean, you're likely working from home, and we're all working from home now, but outside of that, how has your role evolved?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough to be remote my entire time with SHR, but what's really changed is my team didn't exist a year ago. This was formed really pretty much at the start of COVID and everything. So we're a brand new team. We've always had the heavy focus on integrations, but it was part of our overall product team. And we just recognized that integrations are so important and there's just such a demand for that connectivity. So we formed a whole little tactical unit just to focus on that solely. So that's been one of the biggest differences, I think.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And no disrespect to our other two panelists, but Annemieke, I'm most excited to hear how things are going for you. If I had to guess, I talked to a lot of hoteliers, and things are probably all over the map, up at some hotels, down at some hotels, although I think we're all sort of feeling the effects still across the board. How are things at Aparium?
For sure, Jason, I think you phrased it well. It's all over the board, right? I think all our roles have evolved into doing more with less, right? And I think as a VP, I still find myself in the role of doing day-to-day revenue management for some of our hotels that are in very low demand markets where we don't have the opportunity to bring back a director of revenue. So that's certainly right, which keeps me close to the pulse on everything that's happening, which I do appreciate and like to be part of. We are, however, in the fortunate position that we were able to bring back our team to full pre-COVID levels due to the new openings that we've had. So we opened Haya in Florida, Tampa, which was in September, and then we opened Surety Des Moines in October. So with those new openings, that brought about the opportunity to bring on more staffing. So, and then again, with our openings coming up here, we have the opportunity to hire, which is a great position to be in the current times.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I'm curious, we're here talking about channel mix today and about sort of your online presence, but you're in revenue. So, but my guess is those sort of two disciplines are merging. And I know that's been a trend over the past decade or so. And, everybody says we've got to break down those silos and break down those walls between departments. In my personal opinion, the reason I think we keep talking about that sort of repetitively over and over again is that we keep saying that we're going to do that, but we don't really do it. I think from knowing a little bit about Aparium, you guys are a little bit ahead of the game there. So talk about, your role in revenue and, how it sort of merges and crosses over into the digital marketing world.
Absolutely. So from that perspective, just as COVID has evolved and as we formed pretty much a lot of a new team, we've become more of what we call a commercial team. So we no longer, as you said, are segregated into our specific disciplines because there is so much overlap between sales, revenue, marketing, and distribution. So from that perspective, we all collaborate very closely now, and our meetings are no longer separate meetings. It's a 4-person team meeting. So that has allowed us a lot of insight into many different facets of what drives revenue, right, and the different distribution channels, and how we can all collaborate, right, and move and focus our efforts in multiple facets. So from that perspective, I think when we look at channel mix and cost of acquisition and all of those different facets, we're all highly and closely tied to it, right? I feel with the volume so reduced and demand so low, you monitor every transaction basically, right? And then on top of it, it's like, well, what's the cost of that transaction? And it's become a huge education piece across our portfolio to train and educate on what that true cost of channel acquisition is. So that's been a fundamental shift for us, not only from acquisition strategy, but a learning perspective as well.
I gotta say, that's amazing to hear that cost of you talk about cost of acquisition. That's something the industry I know has been moving toward for a really long time. It's great to hear that you guys are actually factoring that into some of the decisions. Can you talk a little bit more about how you do that, where you get that information from, and how you bring that up into conversation, and how it does factor into your strategy?
Absolutely. So we are fortunate that we do partner with Windsurf SHR, and they have a huge data warehouse. We are also on the Infor HMS platform. So with that, right, alongside the true benefits of the seamless integration and all the great benefits that has, the reporting is very robust and allows us to manipulate data down to that level. So it's a simple extraction of data from, mostly we use Windsurf for big data from that as a roll-up for all of our properties, as they're all on that CRS platform. And then from there, we're able to incorporate our P&L data, which is a quick extract, sometimes down to a GL detail level, but it's a quick month-end analysis of where we are performing per channel and per sub-channel and what the cost associated with that is. So it's been, right, a lot of us now find ourselves doing a lot more reporting, a lot more dashboards, a lot of roll-ups, but at the end of the day, it's what we do with that data and how that helps us move forward. And I think too, to that point, just understanding each channel cost has really opened our eyes to where our focus and our efforts should be.
Yeah, fantastic. That's great insight. Hoteliers out there, I hope you're paying attention. I hope you're taking notes. That's amazing stuff that we need to all be doing more moving forward. Mukund, I'll ask you just to sort of, I know we're getting a little bit off track here, but I'll ask you to sort of follow up on what Annemieke said, in terms of the breaking down those silos between departments. Are you seeing your clients and your customers moving toward that direction as well? And then part B of that question, she mentioned the importance of reporting and being able to pull those numbers from within the product. How do you guys sort of enable that as well?
Yeah, I think Annemieke really hit all the key points. That's really, transformation that's happened, as part of this exercise too. I think a lot of the hoteliers, if you ask me, it's not that they were not doing this, but now there's all that more stress to make sure that digital information is kept accurate. Price parity, of course, is a given, but how do you actually have your online presence today? How do you extend that, making sure that all of the features and services of the products, being room and non-room items, are reflected accurately across all of the channels, right? And all of that, I think that's more of the role of the revenue manager has morphed into more of that digital transformation to make sure that the sale of the product is available on all the online channels. So that's one, and I think that transformation has happened kind of organically as part of this process. And reporting and analytics, knowing the business is key, using some analytics. So making sure that which channels are performing, which channels are not performing, making sure that there's a focus based on markets. The travel trends have changed, as we know, because conventions are not happening because of various measures today, and travel being a challenge, right? So focusing on some new markets, because some new markets have opened, because a lot of people are traveling to local destinations. So yeah, in a nutshell, I would say just making sure that you're able to focus on those channels that are performing, and having that digital presence to make sure that consumers know exactly what the policies and procedures are of the hotel for their products and services. I think that's very key.
Yeah,
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Amanda, I'll ask you, a lot of really good stuff from Annemieke there about using data and making data informed decisions. I know that's a key part of your job, is making sure that that data is shared appropriately between the systems. And that's not always been the case, right? Not only have departments been siloed, but the data has been siloed in the various systems as well, right? So has that been a focus for you and your team, is to make sure you can get those numbers in the right place and get them in the hands of the hoteliers when they need them most?
Yeah, I would say so. Definitely the silos have been broken down for sure. And then as far as the data, we have our built-in reporting tool, as well as an extra big data analytics tool as well, that I believe we've seen a lot of increase in usage on. So you can, schedule those, get those however you need. We're doing a lot more reporting through FTP even to import data in from the hotels to help make some of those revenue decisions in our Wave product as we're building out those deeper integrations. Yeah.
Great, awesome. Yeah, I got a little derailed there. So I'm going to bring us back to the conversation at hand here. And this is the sort of digital lobby, going back to the digital lobby, if you will, and making sure on all the appropriate channels that you're present and you've got the right content and the right images and that you're presenting your product properly. And that sort of goes to the evolving guest journey, right? So Annemieke, I'd like to ask you, how are you guys seeing the guest journey? How has it evolved over the past year?
Sure. So a lot of what we're seeing, and this is common, right, with the high leisure segment that we're seeing, right? It's all about guests want to know what's happening at the hotel, right? Whether it's hotel restrictions, local government restrictions, right? We're in many markets where there's been indoor dining restrictions. So there is nothing basically to do at a hotel besides a guest room. So what makes you stand out from another hotel, and how do you communicate that to the guests? So we take it beyond our CRS or OTAs, right? And how do you take that to social? How do you keep your guests engaged? And how do you communicate? And we do find, right, trust is the new loyalty. So guests are really going to where they trust the sources, and therefore content is key, and that the accurate information is there. A lot of what we see is OTA distribution and channels, right? We don't have the flexibility of adaptable content, right? You have to adhere to their guidelines, and you don't have free forum, or you have limited characters, right? So our key focus has been on updating our website. We even created a separate landing page from that, just to focus strictly on the COVID times and what that entails and what our protocols and safety are, to keep guests updated and informed. So from that perspective, I think that the guests have evolved into wanting to know not only what you offer, but what your protocols are, right? And then beyond that, what there is to do, not only in the hotel, but in the market, a reason to want to travel, right? And that's been the key level of engagement with guests, like finding ways to get guests to know what's happening to give them that opportunity to want to come to your hotel.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Again, great takeaways. I think we would all probably agree with the fact that the OTAs are necessary, right? Like, we all know that our direct channels are the most profitable ones, but there are travelers that won't have heard of your properties unless you're out there on the OTAs. Annemieke, you guys have a lot of independent properties. You don't have the power of a big brand name. How do you see traffic shifting from one channel to the other over COVID times? Are you getting more traffic through OTAs? Or are you trying to drive that traffic direct? And talk about some of those channel mix strategies.
As a percentage of distribution, our OTAs has actually been fairly consistent. And to your point, yes, we do rely heavily on OTAs for awareness, right? And especially in these low demand times, right? We do have to diversify our distribution, right? We can't be picky and choosy which guests we want to take. So we can leave no stone unturned, right? We have to be out there, but it's more about where we focus our efforts in terms of marketing dollars, right? Whether we choose to spend on an OTA or whether we choose to spend on our direct efforts. And a lot of what we've been doing now with, right, meta search, all these other opportunities that are out there, really diversifying that spend and trying new ways to capture a direct customer. So that's truly been our focus, right? Yes, as you say, OTAs will always be there, but how can we capture and continue to drive direct efforts?
Yeah. Mukund, I'm wondering if you have thoughts on that, if you have thoughts on sort of the OTA versus direct channels, and, sort of how to balance those best.
I think yeah, thanks for the opportunity there. So I just wanted to weigh in some thoughts, right? So OTAs will be there. I mean, they do give access to some markets that we can't always go after, right? So they'll do the marketing and I mean, look at Expedia and some of these large OTAs that handle that, Booking.com, etc. And I know that Google has a way to provide all of the shop and book capabilities as well. And then Amazon, believe it or not, they're also exploring travel to provide as a service to their Amazon Prime customers. So I think OTA business will always be there, but nothing like having that presence on your own website, as Annemieke mentioned, because you have control on it, because that's the face of the company, that's the face of the business, to make sure that all of the products and services are clearly outlined, policies, procedures, because as I mentioned right in the beginning, safety first is a big topic for a lot of folks. I mean, they do want to travel, I know they've been asked not to travel, so people are finding some local destinations to travel. So any policies and procedures that are specific to guest safety, you have more control on that, and making sure that whole digital experience from the website all the way to the experience of the guest when they're actually on property with the right tool sets to allow for that social distancing, safety. I think all of those matter. So that's, I think Annemieke kind of mentioned all of the key points, but I just wanted to add that, you know, it's very important with the website, making sure that you're reflecting your products and services.
Yeah, Annemieke, you talked a little bit about the trends, the changing trends of the traveler today. You know, we read in general that the booking windows are getting shorter, right? That a lot of people are booking last minute or, you know, a few days out. And I'm curious if you guys are seeing that, and I'm also curious in terms of length of stay if that has changed at all for your guests.
Absolutely. I mean, given that it's mostly leisure travel and right, as we, with all the restrictions, and it's very much a last minute decision. So booking window is definitely within 7 days in majority of our hotels, very, very short term. Length of stay has resulted into true one night staycations. Some of our markets as a destination, right, Florida would be a longer length of stay, but given that we mostly drive in markets, it's been a quick getaway, right? Like a one night escape or right, whatever it may be, got to get away from the kids, sick of homeschooling, right, being at home, like a reason to get out of the house. And I think from that perspective, it's all about what we can do to get the guest to choose us, right? And I don't know, right, some of our hotels have had to adapt significantly between our hotel in Minneapolis and Detroit, having indoor dining restrictions for the last few months. We've had to adapt, and actually we converted some of our suites, our rooms into dining suites. So taking out the furniture and converting those into a place where guests can come and actually dine. So that has definitely led to great press for us and visibility, and given a reason for guests to come stay with us. So from that perspective, right, it's all about how we evolve in these times and try to capture every guest that's out there.
Yeah, so just to follow up quickly on that, you know, these shorter booking windows and shorter lengths of stay, you know, I know you're on the revenue team, but I know you work closely with the marketing team. How has that sort of affected your strategies? Or do you have to put different types of promotions into play to sort of attract these new types of travelers?
Absolutely. A lot of what's worked for us is the retargeting, looking at the demographic of people coming to our website, right? How often have they, the whole, I know you mentioned earlier, the look to book, like how often have they been to the website, right, to try and see what is that guest coming for and what is their propensity to book and choose. So at the end of the day, it's about what offers we're putting at the right time in front of that customer. So we have been doing a lot of A/B testing in terms of that retargeting offer and what that looks like, whether it's discount driven, value add driven, and what gets that guest to convert.
Mukund, Amanda, I'm curious if either of you have any follow-up thoughts on that sort of evolving customer journey and evolving trend of booking windows and shorter.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add my 2 cents here with the Vegas market. You know, I'm close to that because I'm being here in Vegas and having some industry friends. A lot of these casinos, they started, you know, noticing that pattern because most of the customers who come in, you know, California is right around the corner. And because of the shutdowns there, yeah, a lot of folks want to get away. So the booking windows are much shorter. But, you know, of course, they need to meet margins. So most of the hoteliers are doing a minimum length of stay of 2 nights or 3 nights. So those types of restrictions are in play when they're doing these special offers and promotions. And of course, you know, as I mentioned earlier, convention business, you know, until and unless convention business comes back, you know, the hotels are barely making margins. I mean, I'm talking these large casinos here in the Vegas market. So they have reimagined a lot of the way they provide service. So one of the examples I can give is the famous buffets, you know, where, of course, you know, you can't have some of those standard buffets the way it was pre-pandemic. So a lot of these casinos started reimagining how buffets are done and all you can eat tableside service, for example, with social distancing. So, you know, so in a nutshell, most of the hoteliers have adapted quickly to new norms and making sure that the customers have their trust. I think Annemieke mentioned the key is to regain that trust when people travel, that, you know, they're safe in that environment. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, awesome. So you mentioned a lot of those strategies that you're working with, Annemieke. I'm curious if those apply to OTAs and to your direct site, or if you're really using a lot of those strategies, retargeting and flexibility with cancellation policies, flexibility with all those different things, booking window and length of stay. Are you using those to drive traffic direct, or are you using those as sort of a broader strategy on all the channels?
Majority of that is tied to direct, right? Where we can, right? We really focus on our direct customer and turning that into a true customer, right? For life. So when it comes to OTAs, yes, for sure, our focus is on maintaining parity, right? Ensuring that we give them the same rates as we offer direct, and making sure that we give them true, right? We always want pure like content transparency and all of that, but when it comes down to direct efforts, we have a lot more flexibility and on retargeting, and whether it comes to special offers, right, or email database marketing, or whatever it may be, from a social media targeted special offers. There's many different avenues that we take with that, even as a test, or what works best for us, where we don't have that opportunity on OTAs, right? We don't have access to that OTA customer. So how do we focus those efforts on our direct customers?
Yeah. Amanda, I'm curious, let's shift over and talk a little bit about the technology that powers all of this, right? So talk about how your role and how connecting all these various systems helps hoteliers like Annemieke accomplish a lot of these things.
Sure. So first off, just the integration and automation is critical, especially if you want to have a strong book direct strategy. Things that you might not really think of offhand, just as far as making sure your guest comments and any payment details, any add-on services booked, all of that really needs to integrate very tightly. Otherwise, you're going to lose that guest with friction at check-in. So having a really strong PMS integration into your CRS and with your booking engine is really key.
Yeah, and talk a little bit more about that, because I think you brought up some great points. I think that the importance of having the importance of understanding the guest, right? Once they visit your site and they're looking around at the various room types on your site and the various things that you offer, how do we make sure that that translates over into the booking engine, right? So that when they hit the booking engine, they're not all of a sudden seeing different things that they were searching for on the website. Is that a focus that you folks have at SHR?
Yeah, I would say so. So making sure that all of your data, your content data really is up to date. And I think Annemieke was touching on this too with the OTAs even. You are limited on the OTA side with how you can describe certain things. A lot of them have their own set, even naming conventions that you have to kind of stick with. But making that as consistent as you can definitely helps. We give you the tools on the booking engine side to really have all the great images and descriptions that you want there, making sure all your amenities are loaded in. And then on the booking engine side too, we have a lot of features that allow you to manipulate how you display that. So you can choose to, put your rate plans at the forefront or your room types and have them drill down that way. We've got different calendar options. The add-on modal window in the cart page is configurable a bit. So just really making sure that you're taking a look at what your integration is doing, and then on the booking engine, all of the features and understanding those is key, I think.
Mukund, I'll get to you in a second about sort of where the PMS comes in here, right? And what data you need from the CRS and to take care of the guests once they arrive on the property, right? But first, Annemieke, I want to ask you just to something Amanda just said about, the various having the various options on the booking engine. One of the things that I hear a lot is there are other systems that need to tie in as well, and other reservations like golf or spa or food and beverage, trying to bring that data in as well, so you really can offer the right promotion or the right offer, I guess, to your guests. Is that something that you guys have? Do you have some of those ancillary things on at any of your properties?
Absolutely, we all do. That's a great feature that Windsurfer has, is what they call the add-on option. So that allows guests to enhance their experiences, right? So, excuse me, if we think about packages, right? You can build packages and continue to offer multiple options, but how do you know that's what the customer is looking for, right? And often customers are like, great, the package includes breakfast and parking, but what am I really saving, right? And how do you communicate that to a guest? So that just complicates the booking process, right? This add-on feature that they have allows you to manually select. So we, for instance, have many options in terms of add-ons, as simple as a celebration add-on, champagne, strawberries, and a dessert amenity, a healthy add-on amenity, collaboration add-on amenity where we work with a local collaborator, right? This is obviously pre-COVID, but whether it was a local beer tour or these type of things. And it's very easy, and that's not the focus for that. For us is not to make money on it necessarily. It's an easy option for a guest to book, right? It's $40, I get a bottle of champagne. Wow, that's easy. I no longer have to call the hotel to make sure I get that set up in my room prior to arrival. It's just a click of a button. I add it to my cart, and that automatically triggers an email to our front desk. It adds a message on the reservation in the Infor PMS, and that allows our hotels to execute and deliver on these expectations. So it's very seamless for a guest, and that we have multiple options and many ways we can sell our auxiliary products and offerings.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. And Mukund, I mean, I certainly don't want to make this a commercial for either SHR or Infor. That's not the reason for the question here. But in general, I mean, I think hoteliers really need to understand why that two-way integration is important between the CRS and the PMS, right? So like, why does the PMS need some of that data, whether it's before the transaction or after the guest?
Yeah, you can hear me okay?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, sorry, I think you cut out for a bit. So I think I think topic everyone is aware how critical integrations are between a property management system and let's say in this case the central reservation system, and then because the central reservation system again is having connectivity to all the other distribution channels, being the online website plus the various OTAs through channel managers. So I mean, the typical process, you build the rates in the PMS, make sure that the rates flow immediately to the CRS and published across all the channels. So we talked earlier, I think Annemieke mentioned about how quickly the hotels had to adapt, create new rate models during the pandemic. So now that's where you can see the real advantage of having technology that does all of that. You build it once, make sure that immediately you reflect on the price parity across all the channels. And I mean, humanly, it's not possible for one person to make sure that all of that is done, right? So that's why the integration and technology comes in really into play. And then the other piece I think Annemieke mentioned is the fulfillment. You know, making sure that once the guest experience, you've sold the experience on these channels, fulfilling the experience is a key part. So with the property management system, in this case HMS, we have all the tools to track amenities, to track preferences. So we get all of that information as part of the reservation record so that the hotel staff can use the tools to fulfill that experience. And then I mentioned earlier about contactless technologies, you know, being able to request service, you know, through contactless technology, being able to book dining facilities online on their phone, at the comfort of their phone. All of that helps, you know, with this integration and fulfilling that experience. And then the other part I wanted to mention is also, you know, when you talk about technology, I mean, technology has always been an enabler, but take a look at how during the pandemic, you know, a lot of the hoteliers had to work from home just to keep the lights on and have the hotels, you know, provide service to the guests who were there and maybe even the healthcare workers who were traveling and staying in the hotels. So to keep the lights on, you know, you need these technologies, a cloud-based system, which HMS is where, you know, you can actually access the system from anywhere in a secure environment and continue to run your business. So I just wanted to summarize that. So I think that it's key that all these systems work in conjunction to make that guest experience happen.
Annemieke, well, thank you, Mukund. I appreciate that. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit. Annemieke, I'd like to ask you about how you sort of track all of this stuff and make sure that you're doing the right things, right? So measuring and metrics and things like that. Is conversion rate still an important metric for you guys? Do you measure those looks to books and see how everything's doing?
We do. I think, in talking with marketing a little bit about this, right, it's more about understanding who those customers are that are coming to your website and where they're coming from. I think I mentioned that earlier, right? So conversion is one thing, but when it's look to book, right, what was the guest intent of coming to your CRS? And is that intent to book or is that intent to find information, right? And then from that, how do we continue to grow that that feed, right? Because ultimately, the more guests we get into that funnel, the higher the conversion will be. And then ultimately, we can retarget those guests, right, with special offers. So yes, conversion, when you're talking about website, right, yes, that is certainly something we still look at and ways we can improve our funnel and content to convert those guests. But on the flip side, right, conversion can be measured too, right? We look at call center conversion. We look at many different avenues that we have in terms of conversion and how we can help those improve.
Great. Just a quick note to our audience members. We'll go probably 5 or 10 more minutes. I do have a handful of other questions for our panelists, but feel free to enter questions in the chat and we will get to them. So I want to talk a little bit about reporting. My guess is, Annemieke, that with the lower demand and the importance of every guest and every booker, that higher ups are more concerned, right, about what's going on and the information that the metrics that each of the properties are displaying. Do you get that? How do you share reports with people that are interested? Do you get that more people are asking questions? Are more people asking questions about how things are going at the properties, and how do you keep them informed?
Absolutely. I feel like, right, as an involvement and over COVID, how things have changed, it's all been about reporting, right? And finding ways to find trends, right, to establish how we move forward. So it's come down to daily tracking. Our hotels run daily pickup reports, right? That's translated into a company roll-up. So what was our pickup by day, by hotel, and how does that compare to prior, right? It's even a 3-day trend now that we look at. And then from there, that's translating into weekly forecasting versus monthly forecasting historically, right? Because the trends can shift so much given in the matter of a couple of weeks versus months that we would look at historically. So yes, reporting is key, right? We're even measuring OTA percentage distribution on a weekly basis, right? When we're looking at our star performance, we're looking at channel analysis now on a weekly basis and how's that impacting our results? Because at this point, right, 2 or 3 rooms make a world of difference in terms of indexing or performance. So it's really, reporting has evolved tremendously and everybody wants data now all the time. It's about how we channel that and honestly control the amount of requests we get for different types of reporting and streamlining that a little for efficiencies.
Yeah, Amanda, Mukund, is that a focus for you guys as well, as allowing these hoteliers to have access to that data, depending on who it is in the organization?
Yeah, Amanda, you want
Yeah,
to go first?
One of the things that we've really been working on over the last couple months is partnerships with some of the market insight reports, even to bring more of that to the forefront, not even just for your hotel, but your market overall. So we're really hoping that will be something that's beneficial over time, and it's a big component for how the RMS needs to operate, but just even outside of our Wave RMS product, we're hoping that can be very valuable. And on the look to book side, we're really looking at ways that we can bring some of that data to the forefront better than we are today.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, and just on the property management system side, I mean, it's critical. We having all the right reports with the business on the books and seeing the market segmentation and all of that, where you can do the analytics. And the other part is also having that information in real time as part of what we call as the guest 360, where the folks at the front desk as the hotel operator can actually fulfill all of the requirements for the guest experience. So that's the other part I wanted to mention in addition to reporting, just making sure that the experience can be fulfilled at the property management system. So that's the key.
So I have one last question, and it's going to be a fun one. I'm going to ask everybody to get out their crystal ball a little bit if they can. I know it's very hard to predict what's happening in the current environment, and visibility into the short term in the long term is difficult. So we're in no way holding you to these predictions, but how do you guys feel about the upcoming quarter and the upcoming year? Do you think business is coming back, and what business will come back first? Is there a future for group business? And I'll go around the horn. I guess I'll sort of start with Annemieke there, if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely. As we currently see it, right, we're in Midwest winters, so we don't currently feel much light at the end of the tunnel, right? As we see our current occupancy levels still very low outside of our Florida market. But outside of that, right, yes, we are optimistic in how our budgets are built when we look at how we use CBRE forecasts by quarter, right, to build our budgets as a benchmark, and look at how our markets have traditionally performed against those forecasts, right? Who knows? We're seeing some markets where conventions that typically occurred are canceling as far out as September, October. Events are shifting to the fall. So quite honestly, I think we feel business will not rebound, particularly in those group and business travel segments, until much later in the year. As soon as, right, there's optimism about the vaccine rollouts, right, we feel that people are more confident to travel, and how businesses adapt and actually have a spend and propensity to travel again.
I'm curious, you've mentioned the Florida property a couple of times. I wonder if you can offer a little bit more color around that property and why it's outperforming the others. Is it just sort of like it's a winter destination and people are escaping from north to south, or are there relaxed restrictions in Florida, or what are some of the drivers there?
If you ask the locals, COVID doesn't exist in Florida, right? There are very little restrictions, and it's a free-for-all. So, right, they have Super Bowl coming up here in a couple of weeks in Tampa. So, right, that market running about 50% level of occupancy, right? Obviously, certainly not close to rebound levels, but compared to some of our markets in single-digit and low-teen occupancies, right? So that from that perspective, yes, they're running far higher occupancy, but yes, it's definitely less restrictions and a lot more propensity to travel there.
Got it. Mukund, give us your predictions, if you will.
Well, I always reflect on that quote where it says, with great challenges come great opportunities, right? So I know the travel industry, our hospitality industry has been hurt big time, with the pandemic. But here's the deal. I think Annemieke also mentioned that, with the leisure business, that's happening today because people want to get out of their home environment into some, to have that experience. And a lot of new markets have been created as well as part of this, because people are finding more local boutique hotels to make, to fulfill their experience. But as far as the real business, if you ask me, will come back only next year, 2022 onwards. We see an uptake here with some convention bookings happening towards the end of the year at some of the casinos. But because of the international travel restrictions, until the vaccine rollout is completed, I think there's no real uptake until the convention business comes back. So my prediction is 2022 onwards, convention business will come back. One of the things that most of the speakers echoed, even at the Consumer Electronics Show, was yes, they'll stay in some sort of a hybrid environment. Most of these convention meeting planners, where technology will be used to provide education, but nothing like having in-person events for, like an expo where people need to meet each other. So I think people can't wait to get back to do these things. But I believe this can happen only once the travel restrictions are removed. So I would say 2022 onwards.
Awesome. And last but not least, I'll turn it over to you, Amanda. What are your thoughts on how travel will shape up and rebound over 2021 and into 2022?
Yeah, I really echo what Annemieke was saying. We definitely don't foresee group and convention travel coming back anytime soon. Very likely, as Mukund's saying, next year before we would really see that. Our prediction is summer, we'll see a big boom in the leisure travel just because the vaccine is more widely available and people are just stir crazy. So definitely wanting to get out. So I think summer we'll have a little bit of an uptick.
And from me, I would agree. I know that's easy to say, but I think leisure travel will be back this summer. I'm more optimistic than most. But I do know that our industry relies heavily on group business, and there are a lot of big box hotels out there that really need those meetings to come back. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be a while, if ever, before we start having those big 1,000, 2,000 person conventions again. I think it's really going to change our industry. I think our industry is going through a shift, and we're adapting to short-term rentals as being a larger competitor. So I think, when we start to say, when we say things like, when will we be back to normal? I'm not sure that we will ever be back to what 2019 levels were. 2019 was an amazing year for our industry. And I think it's, it's best for us to sort of start from scratch and learn things that we kind of evaluated over the past year and make a lot of changes. So with that, I want to thank our panelists so much for taking time out of their day to join us. I also want to thank our audience members for tuning in. Reminder, you will get a recording after this. And just any parting words from anybody else on the panel?
From my side, I'd say that, we need to always remind ourselves, our dear hospitality industry is all about service from the heart. Technology is all great. The pandemic, of course, has kind of shown how we can leverage technology, but ultimately, service comes from the heart, and that's what people look for. And I think once these restrictions go away, people will be looking to come back. So there's a huge opportunity for all of us to continue down that path for the recovery for the hospitality and travel industry. So that's my parting words.
Thank you. Anybody else? Parting words? All right. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your time. We'll get together soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason and team.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day.